And so yet another entry into the hidden history of the African American warrior. Today's installment will show, beyond a shadow of a doubt, how ignorant the president's comments about Haiti and the continent of Africa were in the scope of this country and the contributions of those people from those areas here in America. Specifically, on September 8th in 2009, in the Kunar province of Afghanistan called Ganjal. This is where U.S. military forces were training Afghan troops when they fell under enemy fire. Taliban fighters opened fire from three sides, pinning down the Americans and the Afghan troops they were training into what is called a kill zone or kill box, depending on what branch you're in. But it was on this date in Ganjal that two immigrants proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that they deserve to be honored, not only with citizenship in this country, but also with recognition by the U.S. military in saving lives. Specifically, Marine Major Ademola Fabayo. He is a Nigerian-born American citizen, Marine Corps major, who earned the Navy Cross, the citation, the commendation that's only second to the Medal of Honor in recognition of combat valor in the U.S. military. Major Fabayo maneuvered through the kill zone where the Taliban forces had pinned down American and Afghan troops on foot, effectively engaging the enemy at close range with his M4 rifle. Then, the first lieutenant, he moved under heavy fire to assist in recovery of a wounded U.S. soldier who later died, Sergeant First Class Kenneth Westbrook, and drove into the kill zone in an unarmored truck, in an attempt to find missing Marine Corps team. Major, and I don't want to get his name wrong because it's very important that we get names right. Major Ademola D. Fabayo, New York, New York. African American. His Navy Cross citation reads thusly: the President of the United States of America takes pleasure in presenting the Navy Cross to First Lieutenant Ademola D. Fabayo, United States Marine Corps, for extraordinary heroism in action against the enemy as a member of Marine Embedded Training Team 2-8, Regional Corps Advisory Command 3-7 in Kunar Province, Afghanistan. On September 8, 2009, in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, First Lieutenant Fabayo and other members of the team led 2 platoons of Afghan National Security Forces into Ganjal village for a pre-dawn meeting with village elders when the dismounted patrol was ambushed by roughly 50 enemy fighters in fortified positions. With 4 fellow team members cut off, Fabayo pushed forward on foot into the kill zone in an attempt to regain contact, effectively engaging the enemy at close range with his M4 rifle. When a U.S. Army advisor was severely wounded, Fabayo moved from a covered position under heavy fire to assist him in his recovery. U.S. Army advisor in an unarmored truck, despite fire-swept ground. Fabayo drove back into the kill zone with another U.S. Army advisor in an unarmored truck, despite enemy rounds impacting the vehicle in an attempt to reach the separated team members. After treating the evacuating several wounded Afghan forces, he took the gunner's position on a gun truck with 3 other U.S. personnel as they again drove into the kill zone, third time, to recover bodies of the 4 fallen team members, providing personnel as they again drove into, providing effective suppressive fire, with the vehicle's mounted machine guns. By his decisive actions, bold initiative, and complete dedication to duty, First Lieutenant Fabayo reflected great credit upon himself and the Marine Corps and upheld the highest traditions of the U.S. Naval Service. Another Marine then, Staff Sergeant Juan Rodriguez Chavez, originally of Mexico also earned the Navy Cross on that date. He was also credited with helping drive that unarmored vehicle with Fabayo on the gun back into the kill zone. There are more than 511,000 foreign-born U.S. veterans. That's according to the Migration Policy Institute. 1.5 million veterans have at least one parent who is an immigrant. About 5,000 non-citizens join the U.S. military every year, despite what you hear, despite lies and propaganda that permeate. 5,000 non-citizens join the U.S. military each year, with about 25,000 non-citizens across the force. That's according to U.S. military officials. Service members are allowed to apply for citizenship and can obtain it if they show good moral character, knowledge of the English language, understanding of U.S. civics, and a willingness to take an oath of allegiance to the United States. Most importantly, that's what Fabayo did. That's what Chavez did. That's what the countless numbers of immigrants who served in these armed forces do every day. It was also they who were insulted by the president's words when he referred to Haiti and the continents of Africa as crap-hole nations. Speaking of Haiti, because there's a lot of conjecture about Haitians in this country and their contributions to this country. Well, if it weren't for the contributions of Haitians, specifically in Savannah, Georgia, during the Revolutionary War, there might not be this country. Now, of course, you may not be familiar with this, but Haitian soldiers fought valiantly during the Revolutionary War, during the siege of Savannah. There is even a monument in their honor right now. You might be hard-pressed to find monuments dedicated to U.S. colored troops. They're out there sparsely. But if you go to Savannah, Georgia, Franklin Square today, you will see the Haitian monument statue. This is it, right here. The Haitian monument statue remembers October 9th, 1779, when a force of more than 500 Haitians, the Gens du Couleur Libre, it means free men of color for my non-French speaking people. Those brave 500 men joined American forces and American colonists along with French troops in the push to drive British forces from Savannah into coastal Georgia. Haiti's role in the American Revolution is a point of national pride for Haitians, if you didn't know. They take great pride in the fact that they helped America achieve its own independence. As a matter of fact, soldiers who did that in this country went back to their country. They didn't stick around. They went back to Haiti, their homeland, and applied the same principles, applied the same bravery in freeing their own land. After returning home, Haitian veterans led their own rebellion and won Haiti's independence from France in 1804. Somebody tell the president that. I'm not sure if he understands the scope of this thing. As a matter of fact, I'm sure he doesn't. But it was the siege of Savannah in October of 1779 that showed clearly in the formation of this country the value of the brave people from Haiti. All of them. Because it was from that country came these people who are now honored with this statue in Georgia that you can go see today. It's thanks to their efforts, partly, that the revolution was won. The presence of those men reminds us of the African heritage that is to be found on most of the battlefields of the revolution and every other war this country has engaged in since before its inception. 25 of those Haitians were wounded or killed during this campaign. 60 were captured in the fall of Charleston about 8 months later. Haitians were also part of the French and Spanish campaign against Pensacola, where they were facing the same regiments of British troops that their comrades faced up there in Savannah, Georgia. So there you have it, folks. little hidden history, because some folks like to diminish or attempt to degrade, deride the significance of people from other places in this country, when it was people from other places who helped establish this country, from places where folks might happen to be a little bit darker, Mr. President. In case you didn't hear, last Thursday, the President of the United States made those comments referring to Haiti, asking, why do we need more Haitians? Why do we need more Haitians? Obviously, I'm familiar with the history of the great contributions of Haitians in this country. But there was a bit of uncertainty about what the President actually said and didn't say. The Department of Homeland Security's Secretary, let me see if I get this name right, Whitlock, Kirstjen Nielsen. To do it, is that right? Kirstjen Nielsen was being interviewed by this Senate panel here about the language the President used during this closed-door Oval Office meeting in which he referred to, allegedly referred to, according to two senators who are respected by their colleagues, Senator Dick Durbin and Senator Jeff Flake, by way of another source, referred to these areas as crap holes, S-holes. You know, if you haven't heard by now, then you know. But Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen was testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and this is what she said to Senator Patrick Leahy when he asked her specifically about the words used in that meeting.
The conversation was very impassioned. I don't dispute that the President was using tough language. Others in the room were also using tough language. If I could, the concept and the context, I believe, in which this came up was the concept that the President would like to move to a merit-based system. He would like to no longer look at quotas in the country.
Did he use what would be considered vulgar language referring to certain countries?
The President used tough language in general, as did other congressmen in the room. Yes, sir.
The others aren't President.
That's right, Senator Leahy, they aren't President, and they were referring to what the President said when they used the language. But she doesn't recall exactly what the vulgarity was, does Homeland Security Department Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. Everyone was using, how did she put it, tough language. Tough language. Well, that wasn't good enough for some members of the committee, specifically Senator Cory Booker, who seemingly took the gloves off here. He was very incensed by Nielsen's testimony. This is Senator Booker.
Commander-in-Chief, in an Oval Office meeting, referring to people from African countries and Haitians with the most vile and vulgar language. The language festers. When ignorance and bigotry is allied with power, it is a dangerous force in our country. Your silence and your amnesia is complicity. Right now in our nation, we have a problem. I don't know if 73% of your time is spent on white supremacist hate groups. I don't know if 73% of your time is spent concerned about the people in fear in communities in this country. Sikh Americans, Muslim Americans, Black Americans. The fact pattern is clear of the threats in this country. I hurt. When Dick Durbin called me, I had tears of rage when I heard about this experience in that meeting. And for you not to feel that hurt and that pain, and to dismiss some of the questions of my colleagues, saying I've already answered that line of questions when tens of millions of Americans are hurting right now because of what they're worried about what happened in the White House. That's unacceptable to me. There are threats in this country. People plotting. I receive enough death threats to know the reality. Kamala receives enough death threats to know the reality. Maisie receives enough death threats to know the reality. And I've got a president of the United States, an office I respect, who talks about the countries of origins of my fellow citizens in the most despicable of manner. You don't remember. You can't remember the words of your commander-in-chief. I find that unacceptable.
Senator Cory Booker responding to Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen not recalling, saying she did not hear President Donald Trump use the certain vulgarities that were referred to. However, she did say that she doesn't dispute that the president used, quote, tough language, end quote. She also saw that it would be a good point to add that several others in the meeting were also using tough language.
That just hurts me even more.
Why?
You know,
Why is that?
It'd be better for one person to be using that type of language, but a whole group. I mean, that doesn't make the situation better.
Well, if they're referring to what the president had just said, then, I mean, can they really be blamed for the language they're using? That's a precedent set by the president. No pun intended. If the president says, why do we need more people from Haiti? You know, this is a ish hole. Why we need them? And according to folks here who are familiar, Senator Dick Durbin, Senator Jeff Flake, Lindsey Graham immediately rebuking those words. You know, we don't have any kind of transcription about what he said, but I can only imagine. Mr. President, how could you say such a thing? Africa? Haiti? Crap holes, please. Unacceptable. I don't know. We don't, like I said, I don't. But it is agreed that Senator Lindsey did rebuke the president. He then later on went to attempt to dress up the situation, saying he didn't know who that guy was. It wasn't his friend who he plays golf with. He hopes that guy returns. Same guy, Lindsey. Don't play. I mean, really.
That's what the problem is.
Why is it so difficult to say what something is when something is something? I don't get it. I really don't. And it seems like it's a new type thing where if something is messed up or going sideways, folks want to kind of say it's one thing, but it's really the other thing. Especially when it's already been revealed to be a cluster flub. But Senator Lindsey Graham, after immediately rebuking the president and making these harsh, insensitive, ignorant, racist comments, comes out to media and say, I don't even know who that was.
Or I don't recall.
Or I don't recall.
It's sessions very long.
And it seems as though a lot of folks are taking on this idea that they don't have to treat reality as reality. Maybe it's we're in the land of alternative facts now, so maybe we're in like an alternate universe, or maybe they'd have you think that. The committee wasn't done with Senator Nielsen, however. Kamala Harris, who Cory Booker just mentioned when talking about the death threats that they receive, also had a very stern retort to Nielsen's not recalling in her testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee.
When we are having discussions about whether the people of Norway, and I will use your words, Madam Secretary, and you spoke about how they were referred to as, by contrast to the people of Africa and the various countries, the 54 countries of Africa and Haiti, and we speak of them, and you spoke of them, according to the President, as the people of Norway. Well, you know, they work very hard. The inference being the people of the 54 states of Africa and Haiti do not. That is a fair inference. And you run the Department of Homeland Security, and when you say you don't know if Norway is predominantly white, when asked by a member of the United States Senate, that causes me concern about your ability to understand the scope of your responsibilities and the impact of your words, much less the policies that you promulgate in that very important department. You opened by talking about a number of statistics that paint the threats the country faces from terrorism. In particular, you spoke of those who commit acts of terror who are not born in this country. The study you mentioned, however, leaves out some of the most rampant terror attacks that we've seen lately, which are domestic acts of terror. As has been mentioned, there is a report from the FBI and DHS which outlines white supremacist extremists, and I quote, the report says, will likely continue to pose a threat of lethal violence over the course of the next year. The report states that white supremacist extremists are responsible for 49 homicides and 26 attacks, from the year 2000 to 2016, more than any other domestic extremist movement I'm quoting. It is deeply troubling that in your opening comments, when you talk about the threats to our nation, our homeland, to national security, that you failed to mention a report that outlined a very specific threat to us as the American people. Deeply troubled. You must understand the inference, the reasonable inference, that the American public is drawing from the words you speak, much less the words of the President of the United States.
Senator Kamala Harris responding to Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen's testimony, or lack thereof, about the DACA meeting last Thursday, in which the President referred to African countries as crap holes. Harris took exception to the fact that in her dissertation, Nielsen did not include the facts about white supremacist terrorism. That's not surprising with this administration. The administration whose head explains away and attributes that side as being, good people, marching with neo-Nazi terrorists. Yet that's the highest group racking up attacks on this country, terrorist attacks. The rhetoric is unfounded, and it's a good thing that the likes of Senator Booker and Harris are taking a full-throated opposition to this type of rhetoric, because this is how seeds of hate are sown. Less black people, more white people. Do we really need more black people from black places?
This is not within the rhetoric, it's just out in the open now. So, like,
I don't. Well, I mean, with this party, perhaps.
it doesn't just
I mean, right. It doesn't just appear, and there've been very few to come out like Jeff Flake from this party. Jeff Flake, who compared the president's tactics and rhetoric to Stalin-esque government. But we didn't see this from previous administrations, not even Republican ones, not even George W. Not even either Bush administration would take this approach to get to not galvanize, to polarize the masses, to ring that bell, that triangle, blow that dog whistle for those bigots who are part of the base, the vast majority of the base. You know, those deplorables. Yeah, those folks who would rather see folks die in the street than offered basic health care. Those folks who would rather children be shipped off to countries that they don't even know. The folks who agree with these comments the president made, they've been all over social media. Some have gone viral. I saw a little white lady who was saying that she loves that type of speech.
oh, yeah, maybe if I go.
This is how that base grows. This is how those seeds of discontent are sown. If you keep telling someone something long enough, they're going to believe it. Right or wrong.
Right.
That's an old Nazi tactic, by the way. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but Goebbels, actually, that was Hitler's propaganda secretary there, coined that. 228-896-9455. Getting you caught up on everything that you might have missed in Washington, like Steve Bannon's testimony and